Welcome to Travolting, hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore, covering Chains of Gold. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Stuart.
It's so great to see your face again.
Great to see you as well. For our audience at home, it's been about a month. It's been a month and a half since we recorded an episode live, in person. But a month since we recorded The Experts.
Yeah, the Experts, which
our best episode ever, covering the best movie we've ever covered, where neither of us are at all stressed on the podcast.
Did you listen to that episode, Jeff?
I listened to a little bit of it.
I remember being very short with you, I think.
Were you?
I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining things, but I would like to apologize if it came off as a little short.
No, it's fine.
I think there was like some technical difficulties on that episode, and I was just in a headspace of like, fuck.
No, we were both very chill that day. Neither of us had anything going on in our lives.
For folks listening, like Jeff and I are both.
No, we had nothing going on, and we've had nothing going on for the past month. We just haven't recorded an episode, and now here we are to talk about Chains of Gold. I don't know why we didn't record anything this last month. We just decided to vegetate for a little bit. Neither of us was working or doing anything crazy.
Jeff, I heard you had White Castle recently.
I did have White Castle recently.
How fucking
it was
dare
trash.
You?
I agree with you. God, I had to experiment. Stuart is so mad at me about eating this White Castle.
I feel so betrayed at Jeff going against me on this because folks listening,
I agree with you. I had to know the devil to hate him, or whatever the hell the saying is.
So for the folks listening, and if you haven't already caught on, I really hate White Castle. Their burger meat is, how would you describe it, Jeff?
Cardboard.
Worse than cardboard.
It's like street gunk. It's like when you step on like gum on the street. That's what I imagine.
It's been there for years.
Yes.
And it's like that black material. That is White Castle's burgers. So if you're somebody who enjoys that material of White Castle's burgers, go fuck yourself.
Yes.
I don't have time for you.
But yes, while we have not recorded an episode in a month, you folks have enjoyed uninterrupted access to Travolting. You've been staying pretty steady with us. And thank you for listening last week to Look Who's Talking.
Look Who's Talking.
One of our finest episodes, if I do say so myself.
And I have to reiterate for the audience that my mind exploded during that episode when Mary Grace and Jeff shared this whole backstory of how much it relates to Scientology. And when we cover Look Who's Talking 2 in the next episode, I imagine there's going to be some similar overtones in that film as well. But I feel like I'm going to watch every John Travolta movie with this in mind now.
Yes. I mean, once we get to Battlefield Earth, that's when it reaches
that's when it's
apex,
like, that's
where
like,
he's literally making a Scientology movie.
Yeah, that's literally like over the top Scientology. Mm-hmm. But like when we talk about
From Russia with Paris with Love.
When we talk about From Paris with Love and relate these Scientology overtones to that movie or Face Off, I know it's going to be interesting.
Yes.
So
I mean, Scientology, it's been with us this whole time, but we hadn't really addressed until last week. So now it's a new facet.
You might say that we are chained to this prospect of John Travolta now.
Chains of Gold.
They're Chains of Gold, which is the movie we are talking about today.
We're talking Chains of Gold this week. We're chaining the gold. Talking the gold. There's no like good way to say it as a adverb or whatever.
And Jeff, you know this is a milestone for us, right?
Yeah, it's our 15th episode.
Oh, no, not that milestone. We are officially into the 90s.
Yes,
Travolta.
we've officially ended the 90s.
We have left the god-awful, forsaken 80s Travolta.
Yes, and now we have the god-awful, forsaken early 90s. But then things get good again.
Things do, but how many movies do we have until it gets good again, Jeff?
We have about 5 or 6.
5 or 6. It's been a rough ride, folks, and I'm happy to do this, but
you better be.
I just remember when we were still in the 70s.
Yeah.
You remember the 70s, Jeff?
Yeah, when we were very excited every week.
We talked about good movies, and we were happy to talk about these movies, and then after Blowout, you had told me it's like, all right, Stu, like we're getting into the 80s, it's gonna be rough. And how young and naive and innocent I was. And I was like, I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, how bad can John Travolta be? Like, how awful can these movies be? And like, folks, I really underestimated it, because not only are many of these movies bad,
they're not interesting to talk about.
yes,
Which is a problem we're going to run in. We ran into with the experts.
Yes.
We ran into with a few of these movies, and we're going to run into today.
we are going to run into today. We are chained to this topic.
Yes,
and
but
it is
we are
not
chained
made of gold.
to discussing it.
This movie is not gold.
Yes.
It is a chain to talk about, but how does this, like, one of the things I love most about you, Jeff, is you find some way to relate this to John Travolta's overarching career and life story. How does this relate to his overarching career and
It
life
very
story?
much is actually an essential part of it. I mean, first and foremost, he took that brief hiatus after, Blowout blew out.
Blew out. Yeah.
Then he did like his little retreat period, and then after the failure of Perfect,
Yeah, it was Perfect.
He took like 3 or 4 years off from acting.
Did a little play in between there.
Did a little play, Basement's the Dumb Waiter.
Yeah.
Hung out for a little bit and came back, as we learned on the excerpts, came back 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
But he looks fine. He looks great.
Yeah. I'm not
But
gonna
also
fat shame
came
John
back and
Travolta.
decided that he was too old now to be playing the characters he'd been playing.
Yeah, he wasn't the rascal kid,
Yeah.
John
So
Travolta
by
anymore.
force of nature and also by his own decision, I assume, he decided to start doing like adult roles.
Yeah.
Again, like he was in Blowout originally before he kind of fell back into his old trick. Hi, folks. You're probably wondering, why did that thought just cut off in the middle of the sentence there?
Yes.
Well, the simple answer is we recorded a whole hour-long episode on Chains of Gold for you folks, put it in the computer, and the recorder had eaten the whole thing, except for those first 6 minutes. So you folks had that to enjoy, as we talked about a little bit about how this relates to Travolta's career. Stuart and I are both extremely busy. We do not have the time to re-record the whole episode, especially with, the future weeks of episodes we have to record. So we're going to do a really quick abridged version of what we just talked about for you guys. We apologize. We really just don't have the time to redo the whole episode. Nor did we necessarily have the energy and excitement talking about this movie.
yeah.
The episode is mostly us bemoaning the fact that we had to be talking about this movie. So you folks really didn't miss much in the way of insight.
If I can say anything here, Jeff, as a producer of the show, I cannot feel more ashamed for losing that hour of. The title of this movie is Chains of Gold, and while the movie
we are chained to this.
while this movie may not be made of gold, that content was pure gold.
So rather than kind of how you folks have missed out on me getting mad about Batman for 10 minutes.
Do you want to restart that bit?
No, it was a spur of the moment.
A spur of the moment.
I mostly am just furious that there are like 15 Batmans out there. I'm so fucking mad about it.
yeah.
2 Batmans in the Flash movie, then there's the Robert Pattinson Batman. There's like 6 TV Batmans, Lego Batman. There's Batman and the Joker. 2 video game too many Batmans. I'm furious about it. We're done.
Okay.
If anyone tries to sell me on more Batman, I'm gonna be furious.
Okay. Cool.
Let's just go through my notes here.
Yeah.
Just quickly go over it for you guys.
Go through plot points too?
No,
or-
we're not gonna. We'll do a summary of the plot very quickly.
Okay.
If you folks are interested, you can. This movie's very difficult to find. I'd order a DVD of it, rip it for Stuart, and then send it to him. It's really not a great movie. It's only really interesting in the fact that this is, as I was saying before, it just got cut off there in our original recording. Travolta's first and only writing credit. He co-wrote this movie, was very involved in the process. It was kind of a passion project for him to try and make him, get back into serious adult acting, which he had fallen off of after, kind of just after Blowout blew up and then just playing like younger guys are trying to recapture his magic through all the 80s.
Yeah, he's a dad now.
Yeah, and then in Look Who's Talking, even though it is very much an adult performance, he's an older guy who still is a kid at heart and like interacts with a kid.
Right.
The opening credits of this movie say based on actual events. No one can find any evidence of those events, so we were extremely curious what the hell that was about.
Yeah.
This is the second and last movie directed by its director, who also directed a movie called Stitches, which is what happens to snitches which there are a lot of in this movie.
I love your speed round through these.
I'm
notes,
speed
man.
rounding through this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, folks, if this is the least engaging
For
episode
folks,
you've ever heard.
Jeff and I have both had a very long month, and
Yeah.
we need time.
Yeah, I am furious right now. It's fine. I'm not mad at you.
I know.
I'm mad at the situation.
I know. We're gonna drink after
Yeah,
this.
generally this movie is about John Travolta as a down and out social worker.
Yeah. Who really cares?
Yeah, who really cares.
Yeah.
And he decides he's really friendly with this kid named Tommy, who's one of his cases. Tommy gets hooked up with a coke cartel group called the what's it called?
The Youth Incentive Program.
The Youth Incentive Program,
Which
the
might as well
worst name for a gang ever.
Might as well have been like the YMCA for drugs. Yeah.
Yeah, so Tommy gets hooked up with them. Travolta, even though he's told by his... It's pretty much like a cop movie from like a turn of the 90s cop movie, except instead of a cop...
It's a social worker.
It's a social worker, and it's like 1,000 times less exciting than any of those movies because there's only 5 minutes of action at the very end of this movie.
There's an alligator pit.
It's an alligator pit.
Yeah.
The main bad guy gets mola-rammed in that pit. And he gets eaten by the gators.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't look terrible. It's like some of the framing's okay. It was shot originally by... I'm just summarizing some of our conversation points and just kind of going over our general theses in a shorter sense. It was shot originally by Darius Wolski, who shot the Pirates of the Caribbean, a lot of Ridley Scott movies. He was replaced 2 weeks before filming ended, which is probably why some of this movie looks really bad. But the rest of it's like, yeah, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So Tommy gets taken in by this gang. Travolta goes undercover. He meets an old girlfriend of his. Who puts him in contact, and
With
then
the drug gang.
Something we talked about is that we felt that this movie was kind of like evocative of a guy being like, I could do that, when he looks at someone else doing their job.
Yeah.
Like when your dad drives down a construction worker and he's like, I could do what they're doing, or something like that. This is Travolta being like, I could be a cop, I could solve crimes.
Right.
And then horribly failing at it, getting multiple people murdered, blowing up a 2-year investigation by the Miami Police Department.
But hey, he saved Tommy at the end.
But he saves the kid. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
We saved the city, Patrick. Yeah, it's literally
Did
that.
not save the recording.
Did not save the recording.
Oh, man.
The kid playing Tommy in this is Joey Lawrence of the Lawrence Brothers.
Yeah.
His brother directed Money Plane, the best movie ever.
Yeah.
Came out last year.
Who stars in that movie?
Kelsey Grammer should have won Best
Grammer.
Supporting Actor last year. Daniel Kaluuya, Turn It In.
Called Out.
Yeah, you called you out. But yeah, Travolta goes undercover. He's inexplicably gets close with this drug kingpin played by Benjamin Bratt. But he is very quickly figured out by being seen walking into a police station and generally just wandering around the drug warehouses, being like, "Hey, where's this kid?" But he finds Tommy. There's a lot of shooting involved. Travolta gets thrown down a pit of alligators, but he climbs back up.
Yeah.
In the film's set piece scene.
Yeah, and the cops are bombarding the place in the meantime while it's happening.
Yeah.
And they're about to shoot Tommy, but there's a gunfight that breaks out.
Yeah.
He kills basically everybody. John Travolta just rips off his shirt, turns into a werewolf, and just starts feasting on the people.
Yeah.
That's not what happens, but...
In a general sense, this... Why don't you just talk about our general thoughts on the movie? People can read the summary on Wikipedia if they want to know the plot.
Yeah.
Or they could have listened to us if
It's
we hadn't lost
very
the recording.
boring for the most part.
Yeah.
I struggled to stay awake during this. But the very end was a little exciting, but then it just kind of was more nonsensical than anything else.
Yeah. Something we talked about was that this movie could have been interesting if Travolta had actually died when he was thrown into the gator pit at the end, because then this movie would have textually been about a guy who thinks he can be a cop, tries to solve a crime, and gets murdered gets everyone near him killed, and then gets murdered at the end.
Yeah.
But it's not that movie. It's instead a rather boring movie. I was not a big fan of this. Next to Moment by Moment, this is our most non-existent movie that we've covered. Which is why I don't feel wholly guilty about
losing the episode.
Because it wasn't going to be the most interesting one.
Yeah.
But mostly my thoughts on this movie are just that it's very sad. Because you can tell Travolta put a lot of effort into this, and I find myself rooting for him more of these movies we watch.
Well, he had to make it through the 80s, and the 80s were a tough time for him.
And I just root for him, and just knowing that he, helped write this movie and put a lot of time and passion into it.
Kind of like how we put a lot of time and passion
into
this
our episode.
And then it gets cut short.
Yeah, so much like us, not getting what we thought the praise we get for this episode, Travolta did not get what he hoped for this movie. It was shot for theaters, dumped on Showtime, never really talked about.
Yeah.
And it took him a little longer to find his success back in adult acting,
which he does later.
Serious performances. He does,
but it just takes a moment for us to get there. Yeah,
takes a little bit of time.
And I am appreciative of this summary encapsulate of the whole thing. But one thing that we can't forget to talk about, as we talk about in all of our episodes, is
the hair ranking.
The hair ranking. Cue the music.
Why are you doing it? The music actually plays. Okay, do the hair ranking. You've literally already decided where the hair ranking goes. And just explain your rationale for it.
Okay, so it's gonna go in between Blowout and Look Who's Talking. Below Blowout, but above Look Who's Talking, because I really feel like that Travolta's hair and this, and for most of all the 80s, which by the way, we didn't really say in this one that we were officially into the 90s now.
Yes, we are.
All these adult role performances from Travolta have been kind of the standard adult hair.
Yeah.
And so there really hasn't been much variation behind it. It's just very tiny variations, but I will say that this one is a very nicely well-fitted adult hair Travolta, but nothing too much more special after that. So, whereas I feel like, movies like Perfect or Look Who's Talking is a little bit more just like lazily adult Travolta hair, where I felt like Blowout was like, there was some effort put into making Travolta look like an adult. And I feel like this movie did the same thing.
That's the hair ranking.
That's the hair ranking.
No, I generally agree with you on the all those recordings lost, like Tears and Rain.
Tears and Rain.
Yeah, the tears I'm having right now.
Jeff honestly did start crying.
I did not start crying, but I was extremely mad.
Are you feeling better now that? Are you still really mad?
I'm salty. All these flavors, and I chose to be salty.
I still feel bad myself, dude.
Yeah.
As the producer of the show, it should.
Yeah, folks.
Cut me off.
Yeah, this movie's about a social worker who doesn't play by the rules. It's a little racist.
It's very white savior-y.
I really can't muster more energy into this movie.
I can't either.
It doesn't really do much for Travolta's fear. It doesn't really have much of an impact. He never writes again. It takes him a few more years to get serious. He falls back into a sequel after this, and Look Who's Talking too. And there's not really anyone else actor-wise in the movies that had like a crazy career that we summarized.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just a shot and a miss for Travolta. It didn't really work out. That's Chains of Gold.
Chains of Gold for you,
if
folks.
Somehow inexplicably we are able to recover the recordings, we will give them to you folks.
We'll see what we can do.
We're gonna try, but no promises. We're deeply sorry about this. We hope you folks kind of enjoyed this 20-minute palate cleanser of an episode. If you're still interested in Chains of Gold, you can check it out online. Otherwise, thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Maybe not for this episode, but rate, review, subscribe on all of the platforms we're on. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube.
Watch this be our most viewed episode yet.
Inexplicably. Next week, we'll be talking about Look Who's Talking 2. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be really fun. Scientology.
You can find us at Travolting Pod on Twitter or Instagram for updates and fun stuff. You can pop into our Reddit at r/Travolting. You can email any comments or questions to travoltingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can just curse us out for this. Find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney. You can find Stuart on Instagram at StuartElmore95.
Oh, thanks for outing me.
Yeah.
So they could all go into my DMs and be like, "You fucked up on this recording, bro." I know I did, guys.
It's not your fault. You didn't mess up. It's technology.
It's technology.
But yeah. Special thanks to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design.
We love you,
Van
Rebecca.
Bodum Smith for our theme music.
And we love you, Michael.
You guys are great. Yeah.
We'll do better.
Yeah.
We'll do better.
We'll do better.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's not our fault. It's
not our
technology.
fault.
If you folks enjoyed, see you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.